myself, also from ReaR. We are open for any questions, concerns, whatever. So if you have a question, the person who is addressed the question to will repeat the question in the mic and then answer on the question. Okay. It's open. Any questions? If there are no questions, it will be a very short session.
Yeah, sure.
I have a question. No. Who of you actively uses one of the software pieces that are described today? Relax and recover, whatever. So, and not you do not count your. I mean, as an end user, not as a developer. As an end user. So, and you do not have questions. That's a good news because it means it works. Yes, what should I say? If you are satisfied so far.
You got one question.
But he is not a user.
Yeah, but maybe you want to get one. So.
That's for the user that we do it.
Should we allow the question?
Yes.
Okay, now your question.
One question for Bareos.
Yes.
After the quit of
Marco van Wiering, yes.
some months ago, the development of Bareos will continue at the same growth, or will give a little stop? I don't know.
Yeah, so the question has been, the Bareos team has several developers, and one developer, Marco van Wiering, has decided to not continue with the project, and he has done a lot of contributions before, and the question has been, will this slow down our development? Yeah, definitely, because he has been a good developer, but we continue, we have our features. Most features from Bareos 16.2 have been implemented without Marco, I would say.
Yes,
so this had not dramatically impact. So yeah, it's not nice that he didn't continue, and I would prefer it another way. But the Bareos project will of course continue, and it is open source, and we get also contribution from other sides. Okay, does this answer? Yes.
Also a question to Bareos. What is the current state of the S3 and ReaR's integration into storage view and backend?
The question has been about S3 and ReaR's. Yes, the status about this. The ReaR's interface is available, but as far as I know, slow. And as far as I know, there are. We haven't received a lot of feedback from this, so it's not in the active focus currently. We hope this will change, and maybe some people will participate or add support to it. But yeah, it's there. It does work for ReaR's, but the performance should be improved.
And regarding you mentioned S3 also.
Yeah.
There was some experimental work done already using libdroplet, which is a library to access S3 amongst others. But yeah, that libdroplet is not advancing very much, and we also did not receive a lot of feedback regarding this. So it may be continued in the future, but currently we don't know. And maybe it's also, I think Amazon has also published some library to access S3 for use with C, C++. Maybe that would be a better choice to use than Droplet.
One other thing to S3, a few months ago I've written a blog article by some guy from Norway who has implemented some S3 backend code, and which sounds quite promising, but okay, I cannot tell you more about this because he haven't contributed it directly to the project.
Wasn't that the idea of backing up S3, not backing up to S3?
Might be.
There are two ways always. We can
hiding a Python plugin, I think.
Yeah,
Might be.
that can back up the data that you have in S3. Yes, that's easier than the other way around, because to use S3 as a storage daemon backend, that's much more difficult.
So,
More questions?
yes, there's a question.
Another question regarding plugins. There is the Postgres plugin from
Yeah.
from the company, and it's with a little bit work you can get it run, but in principle it's always a pity to get the Bareos sources, complete sources into the server, right? You
Yeah.
want to run this plugin. Are there plans to do this as a package, or
Yes, I think I would rather.
First repeat the question.
even the documentation is
The question was about this. There is a contributed plugin for Postgres backup, which I think should allow incremental backup and point-in-time recovery. But it's hard to get that up and running. And yes, we have looked into. There's a project called Barman, which is made for that. But that's a different approach. We would rather prefer an approach like we have now with the Percona Extra Backup plugin, which does a similar thing for Postgres. So that may come in the future, yes.
So what I have heard from the Inteos plugin, that this is really hard to maintain also, and that's also the reason why we haven't spent too much effort in this, just getting it roughly working and then have not continue. We have a concept to implement the similar functionality with Python, but until now missing the time to do so. Sorry.
Just on that topic, I mean, I'm not using your product at the moment, but just coming across what you said, but I am using Barm and the Postgres environment. So my thoughts coming in is that I was going to exclude everything related to Postgres from Bareos or whatever. And then in terms of things like bare metal store, that you get everything apart from that, and you could use Barman over the top. But if there's anyone else in a similar sort of situation trying to do something like that, do you guys have any thoughts as to why that's a good or a bad approach to take?
So this question I have to repeat because I'm not sure if I had understood it. So you.
Okay,
So the question has been, you have a Barman environment for your Postgres,
Yeah.
and you think to integrate it together with Bareos.
yeah, so I was just planning to completely exclude everything relating to Postgres from Bareos, and then sort of, in effect, layering the two products without integration. Do you foresee
So
issues with this sort of approach?
I don't see issues. It is just that these two products have different targets to what to achieve, but covered in parts are they quite redundant. So it's not a perfect solution to have them both combined or run in parallel, but at the moment it's probably the best you can do. But if you have collected experiences, we would be glad if you share them on the mailing list or give other people advice for it. Okay?
Okay, I also have a question for the guys next to me, DRM. Do you have a roadmap for the near future?
Yes, we have some ideas to implement. One of these is to extend all REST API in order to provide the multiple backup methods provided by Johannes in the last release. I think it could be a good approach to use it to back up the Linux containers inside the Linux host with different configuration files in order to back up each container at once with the data in the container, and also the configuration files of the container. Could be a good idea to implement it. Also, we want to extend the HTTP API to use extend something in ReaR in order to support HTTP URL methods, because in the near future we will have machines with UEFI 2.5 with HTTP boot, and could be a good idea to perform all the backup and the boot from HTTP. Could be good to make backups and recovers over WAN networks. And we have also different things that we want to solve regarding incremental backups with relax and recover. And we want to make some changes in order to relax and recover could select the backups stored on DRLM in order to backup a point in time of the incremental backups, or choose the DR image that you want to recover from the recovery image of relax and recover. These are some of the things that maybe not in the next release, but in the future releases, near releases, we will have to be done in order to improve and the management of the disaster recovery environment with DRLM and relax and recover. I don't know what you think, because we are the ReaR.
Looking forward to the pull request.
Okay, of course, of course.
That's the nice thing about open source. We're working together, and we learn from each other. And yeah, that's the main reason. We do it not only for our pleasure; it's a part of business.
Yeah.
But okay, it's growing, and there's a community. There are nice guys who do it for free. Vladimir is one of them, who does a very good job the last couple of months for ReaR. At least he did some very nice things with Windows, which I hated, but he, but he has done it. But he has done it, and I accept it.
Those mixed feelings. I hated it, does not deserves to be restored. But you are writing it somehow.
Yes. But I'm glad you did it. Thank you for that.
It's not actually about Windows. What Vladimir did. Perhaps you can explain it better than me what you actually did, so I do not need to talk instead of you. But if there are not so many big questions about relax and recover, I would like to take the opportunity before Vladimir explains the block clone backup method to tell about what I did before ReaR version 2. You could only have one single backup in ReaR, the backup, and ReaR could restore the backup. Now you can have multiple backups, and this is it's what I implemented is not the final solution. It's a first step to do this, and I think it could become of a big importance, because, as I mentioned in my last talk, but perhaps not everybody was there, because when you do only one backup and only one restore, you have some kind of bottleneck. If you have, let's say, 1 terabyte to backup and restore, and it's only one process that does it, it may take a longer time. But if you can split up your whole data into several separated parts, then you can back up and restore most of them simultaneously. And I did tests on virtual machines, and even with a single CPU and only 1 gigabyte of main memory, I was 10% faster with 2 tar programs running in parallel. Because, of course, if the one is waiting for the disk, the other can package or unpackage something. And on a bigger virtual machine with 4 CPUs, I had what's this word manager or whatever it's called. It shows the CPU usage, and it was 40% for a single backup. And if I restored 2 in parallel, I got, of course, 80%. So I can restore 3 backups in parallel, and I think nothing would have to wait, provided the input is fast enough. And on a virtual machine, basically everything happens in memory. So I can rule this out. So I can get really fast, and this is the main thing of ReaR. If the system is bigger and you can restore multiple backups, you can be much faster, as much as the hardware can do. So you can full utilize your hardware, and there is no built-in limitation in ReaR. You only need to keep things separated and then do it all in parallel. And this is a precondition for what Vladimir implemented to do backups of, we call it alien file systems. So what is not native for the Linux system to recreate. And therefore, if you have several partitions, one with NTFS, one with fancy FS, I don't know, and you want to back up both of them, you must do it as multiple backups. And you can even, hopefully, probably, do it in parallel.
So you said it already well enough. Exactly. It's not about backing up Windows. It's about backing up all the other stuff. Just device file, whatever you have in your mind. It does not even have to have a file system. Basically, I think everybody of you knows DD, so it basically does not care. It's working on block level, so it doesn't need to know a file system. So ReaR now, basically with DD, can do backups of whatever you have, whatever file system you have in your mind. And NTFS clone was chosen to for NTFS partitions, because as you might know, if you have all these large partitions, DD does not know where the end of the partition is until you tell it. But it basically runs through all the partitions, so your backups can be really huge, and NTFS addressed this very nicely. NTFS clone, sorry, addressed this very nicely, as it knows where the end of the data is on the partition. So when I did the testing with unnamed operating system, I basically had to work with basic installation, which was about 9 gigabytes, so it was quite acceptable. So now ReaR can be literally used for backup of everything. So if you ask in future whether ReaR supports something, you will get answer that yes, at least using a block alone backup method.
On that topic, how much sort of reuse or similar concepts you got with Mozilla, because they take an adaptive strategy and pretty much support, well, you can get it to fail, but it's pretty good to just sort of out the box supporting any mix of
well, the situation is very similar to CloneZilla, if you take it, but CloneZilla can, it's basically a live system. So you need to, I don't know, if you want to run, if you do not have a dual boot, you have to shut it down and do all this stuff. And once you have dual boot, you have the Linux already running, so why not to use ReaR for it? I'm not saying that it's essential or only ReaR can do backup of this alien file system. Basically, you can do it by yourself. It's no prerequisite. It's just something that is nice to have.
I got the question.
Yeah.
You both? It's we, I have to say. You are all fans of ReaR, for good reason. I'm also fan of ReaR. But you all have chosen to store your backup to an NFS or to something else, using tar or an NFS or do something else. What have been your reason not to choose open source backup solution, for example, Bareos, to do the backup?
Well, as I said in the talk, it's not DRLM or relax and recover are not data backup replacement.
Yes.
It's another choice to have a ready to recover backup from disk without using drives and tapes on your backup system. And after doing this and storing on NFS and on storage, you must send it to tape with Bareos or products like for backup, okay? But if you have lots of backups using of data backups of databases, applications, etc., you want to to have the drives free for that, and if can, when your drives are available on times that your backups are done also, you can then send to tape easily without impact in your schedule windows of your backups. I think this is the approach. It's not a backup replacement. Never will be a backup replacement.
Okay.
It's an option to manage centrally in an easy manner your disaster recovery infrastructure, and using also your standard backup solutions in order to backup the data onto tapes if you need it to recover from that and then send to the correct system.
I can give a very small example why we cannot always use Bareos or some other open source. Well, TAR is also an open source backup solution. You probably know in medical environments or in hospitals there are a lot of scanners, very expensive scanners. I think 80% of the scanners in Europe are recovered if they crash with ReaR.
Okay.
It's a Linux system, the scanners today, and they all have a disaster recovery image included, which is on a DVD. So the complete scanner software and operating system is on a DVD delivered to do the disaster recovery, if it's required. No, it's the OS and the software to do the scanning. That's a ReaR system, a Linux system, of course, but the disaster recovery image is delivered with the system, with the scanner, and that's based on ReaR. So that's one of the reasons, because it's very compact, and TAR is fast. So that's one of the reasons that. And the other reason why we did not choose an open source backup as a first choice is there are so many options.
Yeah, sure. You have support for many of them, so
sure.
not only open
So
source
it was
but
very difficult to choose of one of them. And TAR was always it's the oldest one, I think, except of DD maybe. And it's a very known product. It's very supported all the different Linux distributions. It's I don't think in the beginning there were some deviations about the version with TAR, but now they're all equal and we don't have any issues anymore with TAR. So that's the best choice to have something working very quickly. That's why we chose TAR as an internal backup solution. But there are many more. You can use rsync. And there are so many commercials and open source solutions that are possible. Yeah.
Okay.
Question?
So for me it's a bit different. Call it not really laziness, but limited time. I must first and foremost care about what we have in our SUSE Linux Enterprise product. And there is no Bareos in there. If Bareos was in there, you would have a better chance. But even then, it's some kind of optional. But TAR is always there.
Yeah.
So it's not because I like TAR more than something else. It's just the native, simplest thing that's there. And when I implement, I'm not so much interested in what backup tool is running. It's my personal interest of ReaR. I'm more interested in the, let's call it the framework, the infrastructure. And the first thing I do is I implement something for the simplest thing. In this case, it's TAR and network file system. And when this is done, then I can wait for users, customers who say, oh, I want to have this for Bareos. And then I say, no problem. Talk to the Bareos guys. The infrastructure is now there. And then we can both try to get there that, for example, if it's of interest for you, that also Bareos can do multiple backups via ReaR. But you told before, you use ReaR only to get the ISO image. So it's not something that you will implement in Bareos. But I only like to explain why I'm not using Bareos. I use just the simplest thing that is there. It's
the reason why I asked is because in many environments it's more difficult to In many environments, it's more difficult to get an NFS server integrated instead of having another service that just communicates with this. But okay, in a test environment, in a Linux company, it's maybe an other way around. That's okay. Yeah.
There is no founded reason. It's just what happens.
A question?
The Bareos guys, same question about the roadmap. What are your future plans for Bareos?
Yeah. Okay, the question has been about our roadmap. PEM integration is on the targets for 17.2. NDMP improvement, so for large storage systems, we already support it, but then we will support additional features like directly connected tape libraries at your storage system, so we can directly connect it. Database optimizations, which improves performance quite by 100 times in some examples.
Yes, the short explanation is the database structure we use in Bareos is normalized. That means we have for each job it records which files have been backed up. So to denormalize it, we have one table called file and another table called file name.
To minimize the space
to minimize the space, it's a normal database normalization because a lot of file names will be the same no matter which client did back them up. But if we are talking about backup jobs which back up, let's say 500 million files, and we have upon customer request, then it starts getting performance problems because you have to insert 500 million records in the file table and join that with the file name table and check which records are already exist in the file name table, and that costs a lot of time. So the approach is, and I have done some benchmarking on that, to denormalize the file name table for the sake of we for sure need more storage space in the database, but it's the problem is also when the database grows, it does not scale well. It takes longer and longer and longer the bigger the database is. And with the denormalized approach, where we directly store the file name in the file table, which for sure then has repeated records of the same file name in the database, but the insertion of the records is a lot faster and it scales. It does not matter how big the database is; it scales much better. That's the change. Yeah.
So what we are currently busy is we have some large customers who paying us to improve the product, and then it's often for large environments and reduce bottlenecks they have found out there. But also we have some other things like here the Python stuff we are doing, and PAM integration, and
ongoing enhancement in the web UI, which also is related to the stuff which is in Bareos, because the web UI uses the JSON data, which it depends on the JSON data which it gets back from the director. So that's also a lot of work.
What we have also seen is that a lot of people starting with a disk-based backup, and the way disk-based backup is handled in Bareos is coming from tapes. You notice this in a lot of places, and because it's quite confusing and needs some careful configuration in the beginning, we try to improve this also for the major version to make it also easier for new users to get used to Bareos and make it more efficient for the disk-based backup. So this is about the roadmap. Okay. More question? One more question?
What do we mean with capabilities? As a Linux contexts of the files, or what do you mean?
ACLs, access control lists.
Something like this.
Yeah.
You will mark the capability for particular exe file, and it has access only to some of the system calls. Let's say ping can't change the root, but can access the syscalls for the
Mhm.
network.
The C groups.
No, it's
No.
something.
I don't know how it's implemented.
Maybe you have also seen it in the SUSE installer. We also do.
Mm.
I have seen something related to ButterFS. Isn't there capabilities in no copy on write flag?
Maybe, but that's not
maybe.
so. Here this is about
Well,
permissions from
Maybe we should repeat the question first.
Which is meant to replace sudo
Yeah.
in the future.
Yeah.
Because with sudo, as you are getting all the permissions,
Mm.
capabilities, you are getting
Yeah.
some.
Well, the question. Well, I will repeat the question first because otherwise it will be not recorded. So the question was that with ReaR, that there's some tests with capabilities that were with tar at least not taken in account in the recovery section, and they have problems with the afterwards in the recovery of the system. It's a very good question, and that's something to take in with us for the future roadmap, I think, because that's indeed not yet implemented or not complete. As a Linux is, can by default we disable it, but it can be left enabled and done with that. But tar is indeed a bit old. That's true, and tar does not take the new features in account. There was some other backup solutions like Star, but I don't think that Star is still doing much new stuff also.
It was working with Star,
Yeah,
Really?
but we want to use the standard tools.
yeah.
The file is not so long. It
Mm.
takes after the restore.
Yeah.
So we
Well, I would suggest that you create an issue
Yes,
for it.
first thing.
and at least if you said that with Star it works, that tell us about it. Tell how you fix it, what the problem is, so that we understand it very well what the problem is, because it's a new request. Let's put it right. It's a feature request. Just make an issue for it. That's the purpose of this session. To have new features or requests. Any more
I
requests?
just want to run into an issue also with the capabilities and rsync SUSE system to another system, and rsync can handle this, but you need an extra parameter that I have never seen before. So maybe it's the same with tar. I don't know.
Mhm. Okay. Yeah.
So targeted at ReaR, but it applies to us as well. Deduplication strategies, obviously with the bare metal restores, if you're thinking of bare metal restores with fleet of virtual machine hosts, the level of
Mhm.
duplication in there and sort of operating systems and libraries is huge. So what do you guys do on the topic of duplication? Separately, both.
Well, for the question was, what do we do with the dedup, the duplication? Within ReaR, nothing.
We do?
You do?
We do.
You do. Okay. Flavie does. At least I doesn't, but I will give the mic to him.
But we have the documentation.
Yeah. You do?
More backup.
Okay. Ah, yeah.
Yes.
I forgot it. Yeah.
By the way, he implemented support for Borg backup.
You already forgot
So,
about it.
May I would like to put something in between. I often experience when there are questions about ReaR, they are not about ReaR, but about the various backup tools and their limitations or issues. So if tar is unable to restore whatever it's called, then it's not a bug in ReaR, it's a problem in tar. It would be an issue in ReaR if, as he told, you need an option in tar, and ReaR does just not this option. For example, a newer tar version 99 now supports -- with capabilities and everything else, do it right. And ReaR does not set this option. Then it's an issue in ReaR because ReaR calls tar, and if it can call it so that the things are done right, then we can implement it in ReaR. But if tar cannot do it because it's just not there, then we cannot implement it in ReaR because, you know. So that's you must keep things separated, okay?
Okay, so just to answer a question, there is a possibility to do the application. There is a project called Borg Backup. It's completely written in Python. Maybe you heard about it. And Borg is basically integrated into ReaR as one of the backup methods. So if you would like to backup virtual machines, there is a possibility to use Borg Backup, which is excellent in that application and can save a lot of space, at least from what I've tested.
Yeah, on Bareos side, I have to say we have only limited support for deduplication. We have some form of file-based deduplication called base job. So if you know you have a set of machines which are similar, you can define a base job, and the files backup in there are not backup for the other machines, if only if there's a change to them. So this is quite something to handle separately. And yeah, there's planning to do something about this, but I'm not sure when we come to this. And we have there's a project, also an external contribution about to optimize our volume format that is better deduplicatable by some storage systems. So we have to split the volumes and keep the real data content from metadata and things like this. So there is some work, but I don't see any release of this soon, unfortunately. And yes, there's also the one guy who have done this for the storage daemon.
There has been a contribution which tries to, it's using SQLite somehow to store the backup data, and which does some deduplication. The issue is that Bareos handles the volume files on disk in the same manner than it does handle tapes. So it just writes the whole backup stream to the volume file on disk, and that's not deduplication friendly if you use block-based deduplication.
But this plugin is a Python plugin, as far as I know. And it's
I'm not sure.
at least it's for the SD, and he will he splits the data and make checksum from this, so he can do some deduplication with this. But yeah, it's also not integrated with Bareos, and as it's using SQLite for this purpose, maybe it will not get integrated in this form. But still, we are always happy if you see that people are enhancing our product. So.
From the DRLM point of view, our main concern is to have a disaster recovery match that can be easily moved between DRLM servers, between sites. And I think with the duplication on one target site, you must send the goal backup of all machines to the destination site. Okay, and this is not the approach for us as the central manager for relax and recovery environment. It's just to being easy to migrate machines, recover machines, backup it, and also doing changing hardware, moving physical to firmware, because your hardware has no maintenance now, and you need to install again on a new hardware in the same architecture. Okay. Also moving from virtual machines, and you have things in different data centers, moving the whole amount of data in a duplication scenario could be a big deal to be easy to manage in this picture. Okay, from the DRLM point of view. Okay, but anyway, I think could be other options. There are some file systems that support deduplication at file system level. I think ZFS, and I don't know if GFS. I think it has, and maybe could be addressed with building formatting the file system with ZFS on the DRLM side. Maybe could help in that. but not at the in our approach to be able to move data between DRLM servers and being easy to do this. Okay, it's just the appointment from this point of view. Any question?
More questions?
Cool.
Thank you.
You want to say
Okay. This was it for today, for this dev room of backup and disaster recovery. I would like to thank all the present speakers from Bareos and John. So, I said John. Could say Snow. Johannes. And also I would like to thank Vladimir because for his contribution to Borg integration and of the clone. You did a very good job. My question is this repeatable for next year? Huh?
yeah, be sure.
I think we already had people that would like to have come this year, but won't be able. Couldn't come for some reason, and like to come next year. So, if there's enough, okay. If you liked it, then we could try to have another dev room next year,
For sure.
and maybe with broader speakers, not only Bareos, not only ReaR or DRLM, but maybe also. At least we have one foreign.
Maybe someone from Borg backup.
Why not? Why not? I tried to have other speakers also, but they didn't respond. So they had a chance. There was only one guy from Brazil that tried to come, but he may not come from his university. It was a pity, maybe, but okay. But he promised to be here next year.
Yeah.
He already filed a request for next year. It's taped, so Mr. Boss. So thank you for being here, and I would say have a nice evening. Enjoy the evening, and maybe we see each other tomorrow because we are all here tomorrow again for another fantastic day of FOSDEM. Thank you very much, and goodbye.